As I said before, I'm going to begin by outlining the context of my presentation. And in recent decades, we have witnessed an increasing abundance of technological gadgets and new types of software. But most importantly, the introduction of portable screens has lowered the age at which the exposure begins and has extended the duration of such exposure. And parents and teachers are being inundated with new technology that supposedly will enhance the learning outcomes of children. So my aim as a researcher, an English language teacher, and a mother of two is to help draw the line between real benefits and technological hype. As AI developers will continue to convince parents and teachers and school boards that AI is exactly what children need from the earliest age, we need to investigate the consequences of such premature exposure. And what we currently see is the increasing amount of alarming publications. This is obviously just one example, but it quotes numerous studies and they all come to the same conclusion of the negative impact of new screens on children's cognitive functions. And they call for new recommendations that academic community should help define. So those publications that encourage and promote the use of technology in the classroom with young learners often focus on learning and knowledge acquisition, disregarding the overall development of children, including their social and emotional development. So in my research, I deal with advanced chatbots used in education called AI tutors. And in order to evaluate the young learners' interactions with them, we need to ask ourselves a question. Are they tools or quasi-social agents? Because in a technical sense, they are tools. And from this perspective, they are no different than a calculator, a textbook, or an educational app, just more advanced and dynamic. However, in reality, we see that young learners interact with them as if they were social beings. Because this tendency to anthropomorphize tutors has been well documented, but its long-term implication on learning still needs to be further investigated. So, as I said before, AI tutors simulate social interaction where they use human-like behaviors, text, emojis, they simulate empathy, praise, correction, they elicit social responses from users. So all these features lead children to interact with them as if they were social beings. So they tend to assign a certain identity to tutors. They call them friend, teacher, peer, or even bro. So they tend to thank them, they trust them, they form bonds with them, they feel motivated and frustrated by them. And attention here, because this frustration is very different from being frustrated with a tool, like when the Wi-Fi is slow and we feel frustrated. No, because teachers feel frustrated by something the tutor said to them. So this is in the social dimensions. So we are slowly gaining awareness that AI tutors do not just facilitate learning, but they actively mediate and shape the learner's experiences. So why does it matter? Understanding AI tutors as quasi-social agents helps us not only design better human-AI interactions, but they help us anticipate their cognitive and emotional impact on young learners so that we can teach them better how to critically engage with them without over-trusting them. So my research aims to answer the following questions: how young learners emotionally respond to AI tutors, and what do these responses reveal about AI's role in the scaffolding within the zone of proximal development? But most importantly, which deeper causal mechanisms do these emotions reveal? So in order to answer these questions, because my research does not just investigate what emotions are induced in such interactions, but it advocates for a deeper ontological approach. And let's say for this purpose, it integrates Roy Baskar's critical theorist theory which presents the stratified reality, as I will later show, with Vygotsky's sociocultural theory and its implications in second language development. So this blend helps us discover the underlying causal mechanisms that shape how learners actually unfolds. Central to this argument is the lesser known concept of Lev Vygotsky. In Russian, it's called переживание. In English, it is often translated as emotional experience. And Vygotsky posits a dialectical relationship between an individual and the environment. So what matters is not just the environment itself, but how it is interpreted and interacted with by the learner. So переживание refers to this unified emotional and cognitive interpretation of the situation. And this concept resonates in AI-mediated learning environments where students' reaction to tasks, feedback, and interactional tone are deeply affective as well as cognitive. And from this perspective, the effectiveness of AI tutors cannot be assessed exclusively by measuring learning outcomes or tasks performance. Rather, it must be evaluated in terms of how students experience this interaction emotionally, how they feel challenged, supported, or alienated in relation to their ZPD. Well, you sure already know that ZPD represents the distance between the learner's current level of ability and their potential development under guidance. And successful scaffolding within the ZPD should evoke productive and positive emotions such as curiosity, motivation, confidence, and conversely, ineffective or poor timely scaffolding should lead to confusion, frustration, or disengagement. So to visualize the multi-layered reality of AI-mediated learning, I have drafted the following table that integrates Bhaskara's stratified ontology, empirical, actual, and real levels with Vygotsky's sociocultural concepts. So this framework positions переживание within the real domain, as you can see, an underlying structure that helps explain why, as you will later see, my empirical findings reveal, similar instructional interventions lead to completely different outcomes across learners. For example, two students have the same adaptive feedback within their ZPD, but due to the differences in their emotional histories or perceived relationships with AI, one responds with curiosity and motivation, while the other responds with frustration and disengages from the task. So my study is conducted at St. Philip's School, so it is currently in a pilot project phase, and it involves a bilingual primary and lower secondary school students. So in total, there are 34, and they include grade 5 and grade 6 students. So they're aged 10 to 12. So the study was integrated in the regular curricular classes in English as a foreign language and CLIL classes, history and art. All students had prior experiences using digital technology in the classroom, and the school was selected due to its balanced integration of traditional teaching methods and digital technologies. So ethical approval was obtained from the institution and written informed consent was secured from parents. Participation was voluntary and students were informed of their right to withdraw at any point. So students interacted with AI tutors on School AI platform, which is an web-based educational platform that offers adaptive support across various curricular subjects. And the learning tasks were designed to be both cognitively challenging and emotionally engaging. It aimed to assess students' subject knowledge, while promoting the sustained interactions with tutors to expand their understanding of the topics that they study in class with their human teacher. So to this end, the chatbot-based tasks were created, aligned with students' current curriculum. So for grade 5 students, the chatbot interactions were centered on Roman history in their clear classes, while for grade 6, which is the first grade of the lower secondary school in Italy, they focused on Leonardo da Vinci's artworks in CLIL art classes and Anglo-Saxon culture in English as a foreign language classes. So the students were required to respond to the AI tutors prompts and questions in real-time dialogic exchanges that mirrored teacher-led institutional practices. Each student interacted with the same AI tutor once a week for 30 minutes over a 4-week period. So I used a mixed method approach to capture both emotional responses and interactional patterns. So I used emotional questionnaires, focus groups, classroom observations, and an introduction corpus that comprised written exchanges between learners and the AI tutors. So dialogues were analyzed qualitatively to examine the way students responded to various scaffolding strategies offered by the tutors. And I examined how their emotional responses evolved over time. And consistent with the sociocultural perspective that view emotion and cognition as inseparable, the study found that positive emotional engagement, trust, and motivation, you can see an example of this on the slide, were strongly associated with the moments when AI scaffolding was well aligned with the learner's zone of proximal development. Students trusted AI when it provided feedback that was supportive and attuned to their perceived needs. Similarly, motivation was highest when students encountered challenge within reach, a key condition for learning in the ZPD. And the responses that you see on the slide mirror the dynamics typically observed in effective human mediation, with AI tutor being able to perform the key functions of a successful mediator that you can see on the slide as recruitment, reduction in degrees of freedom, direction maintenance, frustration control, and demonstration, obviously verbal demonstration. However, despite a generally positive responsive, frustration emerged as a recurring emotion amongst some students, and you can see the examples of this on the slide. 18% of the students reported feeling confused or annoyed during certain tasks. And in these instances, the corpus of learners' interactions revealed that frustration was often manifested by inputting random characters or even insulting the tutor using inappropriate language. It sometimes happened when AI tutor tried to elicit a personal response from a student, for example, by asking, "What do you think?" And as one student noted on the margin of his open-ended questionnaire, this is a computer program, so why does it care about my opinion? So this ambivalent nature of quasi-social interactions with AI tutors, on the one hand, elicits a lot of excitement. On the other hand, it generates a lot of frustration because at the end of the day, the students are aware of dealing with a computer program. So, in addition, it must be highlighted that despite apparent engagement, the majority of interactions presented some deviations from the topic, which sometimes were brief, sometimes were more persistent. So the learners were chatting excitedly with the AI tutors, but the question that arises is, were they actually learning what they were supposed to learn? So direction maintenance is one of the key features of a successful mediator, and this is precisely what AI tutors were trying to do. They attempted to redirect the learners to the topic of the lesson. And as the corpus analysis revealed, frustration often emerged as a reaction to such redirection, because the learners might have felt deprived of their agency to steer the conversation in a direction of their own choice. So frustration appeared especially pronounced in students with lower linguistic level, when the AI introduced vocabulary or grammatical structures that were beyond the current ability of the learners. And it is a clear sign of misalignment with the ZDP. This mismatched support might also be associated with the mid phase of learning, in which individualized support is most difficult to realize, both for computer program and for the human tutor, because there are often too many complexities to take into account. So given the disordered structure of the mid phase of learning, one cannot always know whether a child is simply ignoring the suggestion, or whether he's systematically misunderstanding, or what. So from a sociocultural standpoint, these breakdowns reveal the limits of current AI system in, let's say, intersubjective understanding, which is a foundational aspect of learning mediation. And while a temporary frustration is a natural part of productive struggle, its persistence, however, without resolution suggests a failure in scaffolding within ZPD. And unlike human teachers who know the learner's background, who can read the body language, who can ask clarifying questions and flexibly shift strategies, AI tutors obviously lack the capacity to interpret these subtle social and emotional clues. And this limitation risks turning AI from a supportive tool into a source of alienation for young learners, especially compromising their self-esteem, emotional security, and compromising learning engagement in the long run. So, while the ZPD provides a useful framework for understanding how AI can support task performance, it does not fully capture how the learners emotionally interpret and internalize this interaction. And in my opinion, Vygotsky concepts of переживания helps illuminate this gap, because students, as I said, receive the same type of support in the ZPD, yet engage with it in a completely different way. So one student, for example, that was flagged by the system as actively engaged, yet described in the questionnaire the AI exaggerated praise as fake, writing that AI should be a little honest, because he always says fantastic, wonderful, amazing, and it sounds really fake. So this illustrates a disjunction between the algorithmic evaluation and, let's say, lived emotional experience. So these findings gain further depth when examined through Bhaskar's depth ontology. So the AI platforms operate effectively at the empirical and the actual levels, adjusting their output based on the input they receive. However, the students' varied emotional reactions and the mechanisms behind them exist at the deeper real level, where as I said, deeper socio-emotional and cultural factors shape the learning engagement. And by framing переживания as a mechanism within this deeper stratum, we begin to understand why certain students thrive with AI support, while others withdraw and remain emotionally disengaged despite similar scaffolding. So, in conclusion, this insight suggests that for AI to function genuinely as a genuinely effective educational tool, it must evolve beyond functional adaptation to include sensitivity to learners' emotional meaning making. As I have said before, current AI system demonstrates sophistication in modeling the student ZPD, but they often fall short in recognizing subjective emotional experience because meaningful learning requires more than cognitive adaptation. It requires attention to emotional and experiential depth of learner engagement. My presentation is finished. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
References for your
Thank you very much, Tatiana, really for such a fascinating and insightful presentation. Your study adds an essential layer to our ongoing conversation. While previous talks focused on AI as a pedagogical and design tool, your research reminds us that learning with AI is also an emotional and social process. Yes, am I right?
yes, absolutely.
And I was particularly struck by your framing of AI tutors as mediators of trust and motivation within Vygotsky's social-cultural framework. And the first question is from me. Have you designed and developed the rubrics or criteria, yeah, for your students how to evaluate and to assess such social and cultural emotions and feelings?
Yes, I have developed the emotion questionnaire, but since we deal with young learners, it had to be very simple. So I used the Likert scale in which they had to evaluate it from 1 to 5. So most of the questions contained multiple choice questions to choose from because it had to be accessible for young learners. I began, let's say, with the older layer of young learners, yes, because we consider young learners as children aged 5 to 12. So I began with, the older learners who are more linguistically proficient, they are more digitally
Mhm.
competent. But I intend to extend my research to younger learners because what sparked my curiosity is the fact that many chatbots that you see, for example, on school AI platform, they
Mhm.
are indicated as K through 12. So
Mhm.
it means kindergarten through 12th grade. So
Preschool
kindergarten,
students,
we're
yeah.
talking about children aged 5.
Mhm.
Are we sure that we want to give AI tutors to 5-year-olds? I don't know. So no one can tell for sure from what age learners can actually benefit
Mhm.
from the interactions with AI. And with my research, I'm trying to bring some clarity to this issue. So what I have noticed so far is some alarming findings that, let's say, um, highlight the significant decline in creativity. I have also compared, for example, the students' interactions with AI with their interactions with human peers
Mhm.
in class or during the telecollaboration projects because of the say similar online modality. And as I said, for example, in the interactions with other humans, students put forth considerable effort to generate thoughtful and original contributions, while in the interactions with AI, they just provide the prompts and rely on AI to generate the output. So this underscores, as I said, the potential for de-skilling resulting from an over-reliance on technology. And if we, let's say, listen to the teachers who deal with AI in their classroom on a daily basis, we see that early tech enthusiasts are banning AI in their classroom. And the main reasons they state for this ban is that the AI hinders the acquisition of foundational skills. It silences the authentic students' voices, and they raise concern about the environmental impact of AI. And I guess their voices deserve to be heard as well because teachers hardly ever publish academic papers, right? So their voices remain confined to the walls of their own school in the best case. So we need to consider also the praxis. So Vygotsky, for example, was the one who emphasized the importance of praxis seen as a
Mhm.
dialectical unity between theory and practice, in which the flow of knowledge is bidirectional, not only from theory to practice, but also from practice to theory, because theory helps extend and refine theory by generating new research questions.
Yeah, from theory to practice, yeah, or from practice to theory. And one more question, because yeah, your topic is very engaging and motivating me. Another question: do you consider, Tatiana, this tool, this quasi social emotional agent, to be both as a careholder and the last trust, which helps you to kill two birds in one stone?
Well, trust is a very
It's a
tricky.
provoking question. I'm sorry.
Yes, it's a very tricky question
Yeah.
because, on the one hand, uh, in order for successful learning to occur, students need to trust
Yep.
their teacher. On the other hand, we don't want them to trust AI, yes, because AI is biased, because for many
Hmm.
reasons. So this is, I guess, the aspect that needs to be investigated in further research. So yes, so this will be my further research direction. So not just
I
to.
think it is very interesting because, yeah, due to Vygotsky zone of proximal development, yeah, you as a tutor, you as a teacher have to create a safe and healthy environment for your student, first of all, yeah, and to be not only a care holder or teacher or translator, but to be both. I don't know, yeah, in what role, in what different phases you have to express, yeah, your ability and responsibility. Okay, thank you very much. And please, Stefano, you're welcome.
Oh, yes, more than a comment. Well, thank you very much. It was really interesting presentation, and the topic is completely scary. Like I'm really because I love technology, but for adults, and this idea of this little kids that I see also, for example, mothers in at the grocery shop store, and the little kids, one or even less, looking at the screen, really frustrates me. And yes, I and what was interesting is that you said that it for some it kills the creativity, which is what instead I think for us teachers it makes us more creative because we have all these tools, but it's because we are adults. We lived in a when we were kids, we didn't have AI, didn't even have phones, at least I didn't, and it was great. And so we have a different mindset. And I think that totally having these little kids rely on AI and have like these really personal connection that is even affecting them emotionally with a computer is very scary. It's very scary because it makes me think of the worst things that probably we are in that direction, but we're not going to be negative. What is positive, for example, I heard there's a school in France. Every week they have class in the forest. So they meet in the same spot in the forest and they teach, I think, with no technology at all, and they are in the forest, even if it rains. So my belief is that it would be great if school for children were more like that. And then when we get a little bit more, when we have our brain developed, then we can engage with AI. But it's very fascinating, your research.
Tatiana, I just have one quick comment. Um, you know how you mentioned that kids were saying, this is a computer, they don't have feelings. Why are they interested? I relate to that so much. I get really frustrated. Like, I'm not going to tell you this. Beautiful presentation. Thank you so much.
And one more comment. Yes, Stefano mentioned about augmented reality. Yeah, and for nowadays children, augmented reality is a reality as for us, yeah, adults. And that is why we have to share our experience and maybe to compare in contrast what is the reality for them and what is the virtual reality.
May I just add one last thing that was not part of my presentation, but I guess it's important to highlight that most of interactions with AI is currently silent. So I guess this is one of the reasons why this has been promoted in the education sector, because no one wants to deal with a noisy classroom. So this is very convenient for the teachers as well. So the students are actively engaged and there is the peace in the classroom. But the fact that it is currently silent goes against the findings of Vygotsky, for example, that children need private speech. So they need to talk to themselves while they're thinking, because this is a fundamental transitional phase. Yes, this is how they learn how to think. They speak while carrying out certain tasks. And this speech becomes slowly, they internalize it, and it becomes their inner speech or thought. So the fact that interaction with AI is currently silent is, I guess, a very underestimated aspect. So we might develop AI that helps students verbalize their thinking aloud in the future. I don't know yet where this will lead us.
Okay, thank you once more, Tatiana, really for great presentation and session.